This is the Wild and Fearless podcast. Join Bec Fox, renowned business leader, coach, and avid adventurer, and go inside the hearts and minds of ordinary women doing extraordinary things. Wild and Fearless, women inspiring legendary dreams.
Hey legends, welcome back to another Wild and Fearless show. We have the most amazing day for you today. It's such an honour. We have Heather Ellis with us. And those who don't know Heather, she is a motorbike adventurer. In her early 20s, she decided to venture around the world, and she's written several books, and we'll talk about them in shortly. And she's also a very big advocate for positive HIV women. So it's an absolute honour to have you here, Heather. It's such a joy. And without a doubt, you encapsulate what a wild woman is. You are definitely inspiring, and yeah, you inspire legendary dreams ever since you were a young child. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's start back. People are thinking now, what do you mean she's a motorbike adventurer? What does that mean? So you've done two amazing books, and I know you've got a third one coming, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But do you want to share with our listeners what you've done in your early 20s and what inspired you?
Well, it's actually when I was 28, so not quite early 20s. I was working at a uranium mine in the Northern Territory on the fringe of Kakadu National Park. And I'd ridden motorcycles most of my life, spent a few years on the sheep station, riding motorcycles around Kakadu, and I just came out with this idea one day, blurted out to my friends on a Sunday afternoon as we were having a few beers, wouldn't it be great to ride a motorcycle across Africa? And as soon as I said it, I knew I'd do it. It kind of hit me like a bolt of lightning out of the blue.
Of course I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And I often, I do a lot of talks, with my books and so on. And I sort of say to people, if you have an idea and it grips your heart and your very being, your soul, every part of your body, you must do it. You have to follow through with it. When you commit to that idea, everything will fall into place. So kind of what happened to me is it was not only did I have this crazy idea to ride a motorcycle across Africa, and I'd never done any long distance motorcycle travel other than, trail bike riding around Kakadu. But it was just what I knew I was meant to do, and then everything started to fall into place to make that idea happen. And I think that, I learnt so much from that today that I carry through with my own life, to whatever idea I come up with, a goal, I know I can achieve it if I have that feeling in me that this is what I'm meant to do, if that makes any sense.
No, it totally does. So it just popped into your head and went, that's it, I'm going to do this. And then did you find that things started planning out and people started coming into your life and things started happening, that momentum started happening, and therefore you were on the way?
Yeah, definitely. This was 1992 when I got the idea. So I left on the trip in February 1993, and I think it was 94. I've got a year. So it was a long time ago.
Pre-internet age.
It was pre-internet anyway. And also, in Jabiru, there's no library or where I can go and, get a book out on how to ride a motorcycle across Africa.
Also, no other mentors, because no one had really done this either.
No. And so it was, I was working at the mine. I was a radiation safety technician, and one day this book landed on my desk, just appeared out of nowhere, and it was Ted Simon's Jupiter's Travels, because 3,000 people in the town of Jabiru. I worked with 350 people, so word travelled really, really fast that Heather was going to ride a motorcycle
awesome
across Africa. It was a crazy idea. So, there was one sort of group of people who are the doubters, always putting me down. Oh, you're going to get yourself killed. That's not going to happen.
Crazy woman.
Then there was the other sort of group of people who wanted to do everything they could to support me, and that was where this book appeared. And then this German guy was riding a motorcycle came into somewhere near Jabiru, and one of my friends saw him and ran up and said, "You've got to stay with Heather. Here's her phone number. Here's her address. You've got to go and knock on the door.
You've got to chat."
Because he's, I got Africa stickers all over his bike. He'd just travelled through Africa and then shipped his bike bike from like Durban over to Australia and was riding around
source
Australia.
And knowledge,
huge source of knowledge. And so he stayed with me for about a month and, gave me
fantastic.
a lot of advice about how to maintain my bike, how to stay safe, where to go, and it was so
Meant to
valuable.
be.
Meant to be.
Yeah, the universe had delivered again.
Yes, yeah.
Love it. So you headed off, a few nerves.
Well, when I started, nothing was going to stop me doing this trip, and I was so determined. A year in the planning, poring over maps. I bought the Lonely Planet Africa on a shoestring. We call it the Bible because it's so big.
Absolutely.
And all this was going on. So if we step back to like when I got the idea, the few beers on a Sunday afternoon, there was a whole group of my friends together and everyone said, "Oh, that sounds like a fantastic idea. I'm going to do that as well." And so at one point there was about 10 of us going to do it. And so one of the guys, he was really keen and I hardly knew him. He worked at the mine and I was very nervous about going on this trip. Like I wasn't not going to do it, but I was still very nervous.
Absolutely, the unknown.
Yeah.
A huge adventure.
And the big thing that worried me was not knowing how to fix the bike, not being very mechanically minded, like what would happen if the bike broke down. And that really kind of drained my self-confidence. So when one of the group, he said, "Yeah, I'm going to do that," I was really quite relieved. I thought,
got someone else who can help with the bike.
Fantastic. Yeah. Someone can fix the bike. And so we headed off, hardly knew each other. And from that very first day when we rode out of Jabiru, we just did not get on at all. Like it was kind of the travelling companion from hell.
I remember reading that in the book. It's so funny. I'm going, how long is this going to last? How's this going to end?
And it was kind of like, I describe in the book like I felt like I was in this marriage where I was too afraid to get out. But it got to the point, like we weren't in a relationship at all. Like
no,
nothing at all.
Yeah, platonic.
But it got to the point where it was so bad that getting out was better than staying in the situation of travelling together. And he sort of felt the same way. The reason I look back and think we didn't get on is it wasn't his dream. And he kind of felt like, oh, yeah, this is a great thing to do. But when he was actually doing it, like he'd given up his job, he'd given up his mates, he'd given up his girlfriend, to go on a motorcycle trip.
That wasn't his dream or passion anyway.
With me in Africa. And my idea of travelling Africa was, like dirt roads, mud huts and ugali.
Experiences. Yeah.
And his was like backpackers, cold beers and rump steak. So it was just
so different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
And eventually, like he just got to the point in when we were in Nairobi, Kenya, and we were at the airport, we just picked up some tyres and things that we'd had sort of sent up from South Africa. And he said, I'm African out. I'm leaving Africa and you can come with me if you want. And I said, I'm not leaving Africa.
Yeah, I've got a mission.
I'm loving every minute of it, and I just said, well, that's just, this is really good. Like, and from that point, we actually then started getting on and had a new respect for each other.
Yeah.
So
recognising a difference, and that's okay. And
and
you can move on and keep on doing your own dream.
Yeah, that's right. And he left Africa, and I continued on to many, many more adventures.
Many more months too.
Yeah.
So for those who are listening, of course, we've been amiss. We haven't introduced the book. So there are 2 books that you've written.
Yeah. So
Timeless on Silk
the
Road.
first one was Ubuntu.
Ubuntu,
So Ubuntu, One Woman's Motorcycle Odyssey Across Africa. And the other one is Timeless on the Silk Road. That was, from London to Hanoi.
Yeah, it's huge. Let's talk about the Africa trip again. And Ubuntu is a beautiful meaning. Would you like to describe what Ubuntu means? It's just so perfect for what you're talking about.
It's sort of, generally it's like I am because we are. That's like the direct translation from, it's a Bantu word from Southern Africa, but right through Africa. And I think right through every culture in the world, they have a word for Ubuntu, and it means like the universal connection that we all share, and we're together. It's a word of community and helping each other out. I came across it when I was in Cape Town in South Africa, really quite a low point in the journey with my travelling companion, because we were staying at the hostel, and it was sort of like out each night,
doing the things you don't want to do. Yeah. So what am I doing here?
Yeah, exactly. Not what I really wanted to do. And it was just, early one morning, and I'm in the kitchen, and there was this African woman there, and she said to me, like, white woman, why you travel Africa? And it was really like angry, aggressive kind of tone.
Wow.
So this was at the time of apartheid. Like, apartheid ended in sort of 1994. It was really, there was riots in South Africa when one of the political leaders, the African political leaders, Chris Hani, was assassinated, and South Africa was about to explode into a bloodbath, and so there was a lot of anger towards white people, because it was the white people who
dominated,
shot or murdered Chris Hani, and I said to her, like, I'm here to travel Africa and meet the people. I said, like, in our country, it's different. There's a more of a sense of humanness in Africa. Like, you see people walking along the street all the time, and when you pass someone, you make eye contact and nod and acknowledge that other person. Well, we kind of don't do that here. It's a different kind of culture. And she said to me, as you travel Africa, the African people will help you. This is Ubuntu. And
that's our way of living.
Yeah. And that's why I call the book Ubuntu, because that is exactly what happened. The African people helped me all the time. All the time. And I kind of, that's just what happened every day. So, I just expected it to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's
nothing to fear if you know that you've got Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that word, it became like a kind of catchphrase for the apartheid movement, because the African people wanted everyone to be connected. They wanted everyone to understand that, we are all one and we're all in this together.
Yeah, so beautiful, so beautiful. And you carried that right through Silk Road as well, like people, wherever you went around the world, and you did a round the world trip.
Yeah.
You experienced that everywhere. In your books, you refer to it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
people just come out and feed you. People with nothing will come out and have you in their home, and just incredible.
Well, when my travelling companion left Africa, I was in Nairobi, and I was staying at this place, sort of campsite called Mama Roach campsite, and Mama Roach was a Polish woman, and in the 70s she'd meet sort of backpackers and bring them back to her suburban house, and they'd camp in the backyard, and that's how she became in Mama Roach. She died in 2000 or sometime around then. And she was very famous with travellers, and I ended up staying at Mama Roach's campsite for 3 weeks because I was too afraid to leave.
On your own.
Yeah, on my own. There was still a lot of fear there to go out on my own in Africa. So I sort of kept making excuses all the time. My travelling companion and I, we shared a tent, we shared all our cooking stove, we shared our tools, all this sort of stuff. And so I had to buy all this stuff and gather it all together. So I just took my time.
And pack it somehow on your motorbike.
Yeah, and so I took my time. I thought, I can't leave tomorrow because I still need this, and I still need this tool or this part. And eventually I had everything. And so a few more days went on, and I used to have cups of tea every afternoon with Mama Roach. And, she was sort of become like my mother. Yeah, and she could see that I had this fear and I didn't want to
leave. You didn't want to leave the nest.
And then I just, the time came when it was time to leave, when I knew, okay, today is the time to go. And when I rode out of the gates of her suburban yard, I was shit scared. I was really, really scared. I thought, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to get sort of chopped up by a machete or what? And everything just fell into place.
Incredible.
And then from that point on, it was probably over that week, I still had that fear, but because every day people were kind to me, people were good to me, nothing bad happened, I just expected that would always happen to me. I chose to trust instead of fear. And I just continued travelling that way all the time, and even live my life that way now. So.
It's such a beautiful mindset too, because you actually are enjoying it, being in the moment, actually enjoying being there. Because you hear a lot of people who travel through Africa, in particular, and motorbikers as well. I've read many books. They are travelling with fear in their mind all the time, or with negativity towards the people or the land or the harshness of the landscape. And to travel with trust and knowing that everything will be okay. Your book was so refreshing to read because it was about the beauty of the people and about the experience, and how you were so open to what was going to happen the next day with positivity instead of hesitancy and, you know.
And I mean,
amazing.
But on, the other hand as well, you have to have common sense about you when you travel. You don't, like, I wouldn't go out at night in a city or anywhere really to a bar drinking.
Yeah, keeping yourself safe.
I wouldn't even do that like in Melbourne or anywhere on my own.
Yeah.
You just always have to be safe. I would always try and find somewhere to sleep. About 4 or 5 o'clock, I would always look for somewhere where I could sleep and not be out on the road at night. Because one thing, the motorcycle road is a Yamaha TT600, and it's got a 6-volt headlight, which is not much better than a Dolphin torch battery.
I was going to say a match
torch. Yeah, it's like really, really poor. Yeah. And also, a lot of roads are on a potholed. There could be animals walking on the road, like you can't see. So always around 4 or 5, I'd look for somewhere to stay, and always something would turn up. Oh, there's a few huts over there.
Yeah.
I'll just ride off and pull up and ask if I could camp, do a
little tent, little TP tent.
Sleeping tent. And then they would want to give me one of their huts, and I don't want to turf some family out of their hut. And I'd say, no, I've got my tent. And I always did this, and I sort of got into the habit of trying to bring something to the table, like, if I'd been through a town and bought a loaf of bread, because in these villages there's no bread or, some sugar or something, or I would say that I'd pay to, for a chook, like, chooks and guinea fowl running everywhere. And I remember one day they so I'll pay for a guinea fowl, and they caught it and they dropped it at my feet. Like, what am I going to do with this? So got a couple of kids to prepare it, and then they put it in the pot, and we all had guinea fowl that night for dinner.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's about just giving all the time, isn't it? In both your books, it's about people just stopping and noticing you and taking you in and being very protective, but also sharing their life with you. And one thing that really amazed me is how it seems to be the less people have, the more giving they are.
Yes. Always. I mean, I've stayed at places in where people have had virtually no food, and children have got no clothes on. They're that poor. They're just not even wearing clothes. And they're still there to offer me some hospitality. So all the time. Yeah.
You had quite an adventure through Africa, and I'd love to start talking about HIV/AIDS, because you contracted HIV/AIDS in Africa with a very freak one-off incident.
It was I think, looking back, it's like this event was unavoidable. The way it all unfolded. I'd met this guy a couple of weeks before in another town. He was sort of teaching at this university. I was staying there with my motorcycle. I'd gotten into a situation with some of the hustlers, and because I was trying to find a rear motorcycle tyre, I couldn't find it to fit my bike. Then they demanded money from me, and then because I wouldn't pay them, they were threatening me. I didn't know this because I was just saying it in their own language. They were going to come back that night, throw petrol on me and burn me. And when all this was going on, this commotion, this guy walked in and heard about it, and he said, you should come and stay with me and my friends. So I'm staying with them and we're having a party and so forth. And I was like, no, I'm quite happy here, because some of the guys that were at this place were, there was a little cafe there, and they looked after me. They could become like,
family,
like my mates.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of thing, they'd have beers with them every night, and they were really good. And so they were trying to keep me away from the danger, and not let me know about the danger, but
it was happening without you knowing.
It was going to happen, And so I said, oh, right, fair enough then. And off I went, packed the bike up and off we went to this...
He was pretty persistent, wasn't he? You wrote in your
this
book,
house in suburban Bamako, and there was a party, you know, beers, fried chicken, people's...
Happy times.
You know, smoking.
Smoking,
And it just one thing led to another.
Yeah.
And when I went to Africa, I didn't take condoms with me because I knew all about HIV. You know, like this was in the early 90s and we all knew about the Grim Reaper.
About it, yep.
You know, the Grim Reaper came out in 1987, 3-week campaign that put the fear of death into everyone.
Everyone across Australia.
You know, no one was going to have unprotected sex.
Yep.
Like at that time, myself included, we all went and had HIV tests.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
We'd all been having unprotected sex. I mean, it was the naughty 90s.
Yeah.
And the end of the 80s.
Exactly.
So I thought, well, I'm not going to have sex in Africa. This is not going to happen.
Be celibate. That's it. Done.
No, not happening.
Yeah.
And it didn't until this one incident. And I didn't take condoms. Why would I need condoms when I'm not going to have
be celibate?
sex?
Exactly.
But I'm a 28-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And every 28-year-old woman
has hormones and desires.
Yeah.
And
especially if you have not had sex for over 12 months.
Yeah.
And then you meet a really lovely man who you get on really well with and he touches you all in the right places.
And it's like, hello.
The body takes over.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah, the mind is just in another place.
Yep.
And then that's what happened.
Yeah.
So I just say to people, you know, if you're like, no matter if you're going to travel, you are going to have sex. I don't care what age you are.
Be prepared, exactly.
Yeah, probably more so if you're 28.
Yep.
So take condoms, but these days you can go and have PrEP. In fact, you can have an injection for PrEP. So it's like a pre-exposure prophylactic medication to prevent you getting HIV.
Wow.
So you can go out there in Africa or Asia or wherever you want to go and have sex, unprotected sex with as many people as you want, and you will not get HIV. You'll probably come back with, you know, antibiotic-resistant gonorrhea and syphilis and chlamydia and everything else.
Yeah.
So, you know, still use condoms, but you won't get HIV. You can have it as take a daily pill, or you can have it as now an injectable PrEP, which lasts for 2 months.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
But back in your day,
There was none of that.
At that time, there's not even a cure for HIV. AIDS.
No, it was a death sentence. So,
and you discovered that when you were in London. So you went to London and had a break from your trip. And worked there for a while as a career. I love those chapters, by the way. I think they're most amazing. I loved all that.
Yeah. So I was working as a motorcycle courier in London, and what a lifestyle. I just loved every moment of it. It was, completely like going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And, so the next leg of my world motorcycle journey was going to be through Russia and the Silk Road and China and so on, and Asia.
And back to Aussie?
Back to Australia. So I wanted to learn Russian at the Moscow University over the winter. So to do that, I needed to have a 3-month visa, and to get a 3-month visa, I needed to have a HIV test. So I just went along and had the test. The whole one-night thing that happened in Africa I didn't even think about it. Did not even occur to me. Yep. So, wandered in there, got my results.
Expecting absolutely negative results, walk back out, get our visa.
Yeah, and that was, my whole world came crashing down. It was just complete devastation. I was like 30 years old. I had 5 years to live. That's basically what they, by the time the virus kind of destroyed your immune system, it would take about 5 years. So once you don't have an immune system, you get all these opportunistic infections, which is AIDS. So you don't have any immunity to protect yourself from
anything,
pneumonia cancers, and you get all your gut is damaged, so you can't process food. This is why you get the wasting, and so because your gut is like 60% of your immune system, so that's where it's all kind of happening.
I remember you writing about that, and it's a really incredibly emotional part of the book, obviously. And this is a book about the Silk Road. And that heartlessness that you felt, like even the way it was presented to you about your results, and being so far away from home and support, and having this dream of continuing on with your, the second half of your around the world trip, and then all of that, plus the unknown of how long your life expectancy would be, and the illness that you'd carry with you.
Yeah,
it was just to experience that. I just can't imagine how you did it and how you continued to go. Like, what was going on in your head?
Well, first off, it's like, you know, you're going to die. Like, and you've got this like gremlin inside your head that's like constantly like this evil laugh saying you're going to die. You're going to die. So, you know, it's like you're never going to get married. You're never going to have children. All the things that, you know, fair enough, yes, I was travelling, but eventually I wanted all of those other things as well. I wanted, this was, you know, the journey on the motorcycle was one part of my life, but it was going to continue on and, be married, you know, fall in love, get married, have children, you know, have the house, the white picket fence, everything that we all want out of life. A long life. That I never had, that was taken away from me. And so you just, you can't, and then on top of that, it's the stigma that goes with HIV. You know, you're not going to tell anyone that you've got HIV. And the last people I was going to tell was my parents. You know, all as I could hear is I would say, how could you be so stupid? So I thought, well, I don't need that. And then not only that, I didn't want to worry my mother. You know, it would destroy my mother. I thought, no, this is my fight. But at the same time, I'd just come from Africa where everything always worked out for me. Africa was also a real spiritual awakening. You know, I sort of came to realise that there was, you know, there is this universal energy or something there that will help us along. You know, I was helped along, like things opened for me, things fell into place for me. I was saved at, you know, my darkest hour every time.
Every time,
so I kind of start believing, you know, that there's something going on beyond what we can see. So I sort of felt, you know, also that I would be saved. Something would come along to save me.
There's something there,
And I also had this, what kind of changed it for me is I had a brochure for a Positive Women's group in London. So I went along to this group and there was a couple of women there and they, one of them had been positive for about 5 years and she was beautiful and healthy, and same with the other woman, a couple of years, and she was the same. And I felt, well, if they can still be healthy, why not me? You know, and they gave me a lot of confidence and a lot of hope. And they also, at the time, the only medications were things like AZT, and they said stay away from medications because they were really toxic. And they were actually kind of doing more damage than good. And they were all they would do is buy people a little bit more time. So because I was, you know, the doctors weren't offering me medications because I was still healthy. Like I wasn't sick. You know, I look as healthy as I do now. So I thought, well, okay, if they can be healthy and have HIV for 5 years, maybe I can.
Exactly.
I'll do my one last adventure, you know, my one last search for meaning, as I like to call it, and just see what happens. You know, maybe that thing out there, that universal energy or whatever it was, would save me and I would survive. But it would only happen on the road because I had to be on the road. So I packed my bike and off I went.
Again.
Yeah.
And that Silk Road experience was quite different, wasn't it? Because you did fall into periods of being very, very unwell.
To begin with, I was okay. But again, you know, this gremlin was in my head, you're going to die. Like that was pretty much constant. Some days it would be louder than other days. The great thing about travelling is you live in the moment and there's so much going on. Like I used to sort of describe my travels as like living, when I was in Africa, I'd describe it as like living 1,000 lifetimes every day because so much is happening. You're meeting so many different people. You're seeing so many different landscapes all the time. So that was like a distraction. So there'd be times when I didn't think about that. But I was taking Bactrim, which is an antibiotic, because the HIV doctor in London said, you know, you need to take this with you because the big thing that'll get you is a pneumonia called PCP, which is harmless to healthy people, but when your immune system is getting a bit compromised, and then you can easily just, you know, it can become fatal very quickly. So he said, take it as a prophylactic. But what it did to me is it made my face really red. And I thought this was the HIV, but it was actually the Bactrim.
Yep.
But then what I did is I bought some foundation, and I used to put this foundation on, which in a way probably helped me because it gave me some sun protection. Because when you're going through some of these Central Asian countries, you're like in the desert. But it wasn't towards like when I was in Kazakhstan that my health really started to fall apart. I'd picked up Giardia, so things like that allowed, like it pushed my immune system down and allowed the virus to kind of
feed.
Yes, that's a good way to describe it, to really multiply. And my body didn't have the strength to fight Giardia and maybe all these other little pathogens which had invaded my body, plus HIV. So I started going down pretty rapidly. Yeah.
It was towards the end that you decided to actually do a quick trip home. So you did get very sick. I don't want to give away anything about the book. It's fantastic. One thing I will say about the book is that you didn't focus on this the whole time, which is really lovely. You still shared your incredible experiences through the different countries and the people and the landscape. This amazing adventure.
Yeah, because it was, like when you travel, things happen. You meet people. I travelled with 3 Frenchmen for a little while. So that was another part of the journey.
Off-road and dirt
and you're seeing these, these magnificent, beautiful vistas, and you're having all these adventures. So, like that is what's going on. The HIV was just at the back of it. And when most of the time I was really well. It was just sort of kind of towards the end. So I didn't like kind of dwell on it. It was only when, like in Kazakhstan, I was having a shower one day and all my hair was falling out. Like big clumps of it were on the floor, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, why I was like, and I was pulling at my hair and big clumps were coming out because my immune system was getting so low at the time. The body just jettisons everything that's not necessary. And the first thing it lets go of is the hair. It's not going to feed the hair. That's gone.
Yep.
And
weight loss.
Yeah, weight. Yeah. I was like, like when I got to Hanoi, it was the first time I'd actually looked at myself in a mirror, because you're camping or staying in like little hotel, like roadside hotels, and there's no mirror in them. So I looked at my body in this full-length mirror, and I was just horrified. It was like looking at a skeleton. Yeah. I was. And like to this day, I think, how did I manage to ride this big
How did you pick up the bike when you dropped it? It's amazing.
Well, on the Silk Road trip, I never dropped it. I can't remember. If I did, there was someone to help me. And Africa is one village. If like I would, like I would get a flat tyre, lay the bike on its side. I'd lay on its panniers, which kick the back tyre up, pull the tyre out, change it. By the time I'd put the tyre back on, packed away my tools, there's 50 people
standing around.
And then they would help me pick up the bike.
Love it. Yeah, it's great.
So when in Hanoi, I thought, no, I need to get back to medical help.
And your mum and dad. Unbeknownst to you though, that there was a cure by that stage, but you were of course on the road and no internet, no awareness
didn't
of
know
it.
anything about it. So when I got back to Australia, I sort of got, because I had, the main thing I had was Shigella, which is like a bacterial infection in your gut that I'd picked up in China, and that's where all the weight loss was coming from. So once I got home, I went to a doctor. I didn't tell my parents, a kind of surprise visit. And I just thought, I'm really skinny because, I've got this like bacterial infection and diarrhea and stuff. And so I had an antibiotic to sort that out. And I actually then started putting on a bit more weight, but the HIV was still there. So it was still kind of, eating away at my immune system. And then I just rang the Queensland AIDS Council in Cairns and just told them my story. I said, this is me and this is what's going on. And they said, well, get yourself up here as fast as you can and we'll take care of you. So I said to my parents, because I said to them, I haven't told my parents. And I said to my parents, I'm going to stay with a friend in Cairns and I've got a job. and I'm starting a new life. So I'm leaving tomorrow.
Yeah.
See you later. And off I went, and I went straight to them because I bought this like little old secondhand car, and they looked after that, and they took me to the cancer-based hospital, and I went straight up into the ward, and I had like 40 T cells, and all the nurses were saying, "Oh, you got to tell your parents," and doctors would come in, you've got to tell your parents.
You're so courageous to do that all by yourself. It's just incredible.
And I said, I'm going to be fine. I'll get over
I don't want to
this.
upset my parents.
Yeah. I thought, no, I couldn't. I didn't want to worry them.
Yeah.
You know, it just, you love your parents so much. But, you know, they did find out. I did tell them years later. And they were just like, why didn't you tell us? Like, we would have been there to support you. But you don't know that at the time, you know. You just, you don't want to worry your parents. They're a different generation. So, yeah.
And especially with the stigma was still there even after
stigma
the cures came out. Remember?
Yeah, still here today.
Yeah. So you still find it's still here today?
Yeah. People who are diagnosed today, like there would be people right now diagnosed with HIV in Australia, and their world will be falling apart just as mine did back in September 1995 because of the stigma. And that's what they think. They think, I'm going to be rejected, I'm going to die, no one's going to love me.
So we still need a lot of advocacy out there about HIV, obviously, and a lot of education around it, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we just need to, like, a lot of people don't know about the treatments. I'm on treatments which, to me, are as good as a cure. You know,
absolutely.
I'm 58 years old. Like, I am very healthy woman.
Yep. And you've had a beautiful family, and you've done all those dreams that you had.
Yeah, I've got 3 teenage boys, beautiful teenage boys. I'm active. I do, you know, like my health is excellent, actually 100% because of the treatments I'm on. And nowadays, there's the treatment you can have as an injectable once every 2 months.
Yeah.
So it's not like you've got to take pills, because some people think I've got to take pills every day. It reminds me. And also there's, like, you know, women, say, from the African communities where the stigma is even worse. You know,
a lot of cultural
migrants from Africa come over here. They don't want their family, they don't want anyone to know, and they've got to hide their pills all the time. You know, so so the injectables are really great, and we're probably 5 years away from a cure, and maybe less from a vaccine, because you know, there's millions of people still get HIV in developing countries.
Absolutely.
And they don't all have access to the treatments that I do. That, like, if I didn't have the treatments, I would probably be dead in a year, or 2 years. And it would be a long, slow, miserable death.
It's terrible. And do you think the medical and all the vaccinations aren't happening because the money's not, the interest is not there anymore, or what is it?
No. The money is going in.
It's there?
Yeah, heaps of money going in there. It's just the virus changes. So COVID is different. Like, COVID is just COVID, and it does mutate, but it doesn't change as rapidly as HIV does. HIV is a really smart virus, and it finds different ways to get into the immune cells. Yeah. So if you come out with a vaccine, it will stop that particular mutation or strain of the virus, but it won't stop any of the others. So you can go and vaccinate, you know, millions of people, but you have to go and do it all again in another year's time. Yeah.
Blimey.
So, and same with a cure.
Yeah.
So
I know you're really heavily involved, and I think it's absolutely incredible. And this is, again, why you're so inspiring. And anyone who hasn't read your books must go out now and buy them. They're most amazing books. But equally, and without any doubt, is what you're doing every day to day at the moment. So you're a very strong advocate for positive HIV in women.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that, what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I work for Positive Women Victoria. So when I got back to Cairns and, you know, got the treatments and controlled the HIV to undetectable levels, I went to university, James Cook University, and I studied journalism and worked for News Limited, and so I've got a journalism background. So now I'm the communications and events coordinator with Positive Women Victoria.
Fantastic.
And so I really love the job. I can use my writing skills, my journalism skills, just to like help the women, support the women who are diagnosed with HIV by just inspiring them and showing them that, it is not the end of your life. Like, this is just one part of your life, one really, really small part of your life. There's so many people out there who take medications every day for whatever.
For all sorts of things.
Yeah, so
exactly.
it's just, you're just taking medications for this. And just really working to like raise awareness about the treatments and things like U equals U. So there's a big campaign around, undetectable equals untransmittable. So that means if you're undetectable, you've got an undetectable viral load, like you're on the treatments, and the treatments like control the virus to such an extent that it's virtually not there. So you cannot transmit HIV sexually when you're on the treatments.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know that. And so, there's so many women who will be, very nervous about, say, going into a new relationship. Or even if they meet someone, that other person may reject them because they're fearful of contracting HIV, but they're not. It's like 20 years and thousands and thousands and thousands of sexual acts in every way, shape and form you can imagine. And this is heterosexual, gay couples, whatever you like.
Safe sex,
There's been no people have been... when they're undetectable cannot transmit HIV sexually.
Yeah. And that's a really big message to get across. And I recently watched, you were one of the guests on You Can't Ask That, which is a fantastic ABC show. For those who haven't watched it, it's fantastic. It brings up all the different topics that it's really great for advocacy and education. And that was discussed, and that was really, really good because it's the first time I came across that.
Oh, yeah. And it's a great show because it's, you get real people and the characters that are on there, and it's just, it's educational and entertaining and just, really getting into the lives of people from all walks of life that you would never normally find out about.
Exactly. So. And the questions that are asked are sometimes a bit quirky and sometimes could be taken as offensive, but they're questions that people generally put down on a piece of paper and go, I need to ask this question. And it's really great the way it's responded to. So what next for you, Heather? Because you're amazing. I know you've got many, many more adventures ahead and ideas. What's next for you?
Well, my boys are just coming to the end of their high school years where it's like, the birds in the nest. Yeah. They're going to fly off and I'm going to fly off as well. So I'm going to jump on my motorcycle, my trusty Yamaha TT600, which is in my shed waiting patiently for its next adventure. And, we're going to head off to South America. And it's, like when I'm back on that bike travelling, it will, like, the Silk Road in Africa will feel like it was yesterday. And what I've done in the sort of intervening sort of 23 years or whatever it's been, by the time I go, it's another part of my journey. Like Africa was one journey and, London motorcycle couriering was a journey and Silk Road was a journey and being a mum with 3 teenage boys, a single mum with 3 teenage boys was another part of that journey. And it's just, being a parent and being a mother, and to me, it's like really the meaning of life. And I just, I recommend everyone do it. it's
even with 3 teenage boys, that's a big statement.
It's amazing. It's just they bring so much value into your life, and just the things we do together and the adventures we have. And I've always, like in the early days,
become too.
As a single parent in the early days when they were little, I didn't have that much money to go on holidays, so we used to just go free camping.
The best.
And we'd a few days in the bush, and we have so many good memories of that, and it costs nothing.
Absolutely.
So and it was beautiful, and now we. Go a bit longer. We're into multi-day hiking and we're doing 4-wheel driving. So it's just, to me, life is about experiences. That's what you don't need to buy lots of new clothes and change your furniture every couple of years. You just focus on the experiences
and the beautiful people you have around you. That's Ubuntu again, isn't it? Yeah, it's great. So for those, isn't she amazing? Those who are listening, and also just look at the tech crew, they're like, oh my gosh. So what are some key messages you'd love to share? Because there's been many things you've said today, and I hate wrapping things up because we could talk for all night. What are some key messages for people? I
suppose the main thing is, be, like when you've got an idea, believe in it and stick with it and look out for the coincidences and the chance encounters, that synchronicity that will come into your life. And I think that is what I'm calling that universal energy, that will help you along the way. Like you're on this path and suddenly these different people and things and situations and opportunities present themselves. And sometimes they're very, very subtle. And if you're not in tune with it, you will miss them. So it's about just slowing down a bit, removing the worry from your mind. Worry is noise. So when you've got lots of noise, it's like if you've got a 17-year-old son and you're in the car and he turns up the radio and he's playing his rap or doof or whatever. It's noise and it's very, very distracting, and you can't sort of be in tune
focused.
with what's coming your way and those opportunities. And just value every day. Like life is a special thing. It's a special gift we have. And like you just, if you're feeling a bit down, just change your perspective. I know it's really hard to say that if people are really feeling down, but I suppose just
look at what you have instead of what you have not, and recognise it's a negative thought or a worry.
Yeah, and like while today might be a really bad day, tomorrow is another day, and and it'll, that new opportunities will present themselves.
As you've proven all through your life.
Yeah, and I suppose also, when you do get out and travel, for young people, like travel and see the world, because those experiences will stay with you forever, and you will grow from those experiences. You'll gain a lot of self-confidence. Having ridden a motorcycle through Africa and being a motorcycle courier in London, I've got. I believe I can do anything. Because if I can ride a motorcycle across Africa and survive as a motorcycle courier in London for 12 months,
exactly,
then I can do anything. So I think I'm not saying go and be a motorcycle courier in London, but
you can do anything you put your heart to.
Yeah, if you just go out there and do a bit of travelling, it will really change your way of seeing the world and the self-confidence you have, because you will think to yourself, I can do this. And like the first time you go out and set off, take that first step, it will be scary. You will be so frightened, but just, the next step you take, it'll be easier. It gets easier and easier, and you get more and more confidence, and you become less fearless.
And trust. That's a big thing you've been talking about, just trust in yourself and trust in the universe, or Ubuntu, that it's going to happen, it's going to be okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's fantastic. Heather, it's been an absolute joy having you here today. I've been looking forward to this for so many months. Highly recommend anyone to go out and get your books. So again, would you like to just share the titles with the audience?
Thank you. Yeah, Ubuntu and Timeless on the Silk Road. And if you just Google Heather Ellis, I should come up. The books.
Absolutely, you will.
So I've got a website. Have a look at that, and they're on Amazon, Kindle. You can buy the print book on Amazon. As well as they're in a lot of libraries around Australia as well, and some bookshops have got them, and you can also buy them through my website. I'm getting a bit low on stock, but yeah.
Oh, look, they're a fantastic read, and you're an absolute treasure, and certainly an extraordinary and inspiring woman. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Very heartfelt thanks. I am a motorbike rider, and everything you do is just really inspiring. Not only what you do through your adventures, but your mindset is really, really clear, and handling the issues you've had in your life with such grace and trust has just been something that we can all take away and learn from. It's like, you know what, let it go. Just let go of the worries, just let it go and just keep going. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah.
You're a gem.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Hey legends, I hope you're really enjoying the show. We love bringing it to you. Please support us, subscribe, like all our social media platforms, and please reach out and donate through buymeacoffee.com/wild and fearless. We really appreciate it. Have an awesome day.